guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be, as you can see from the title, a video about morning sickness. This is something I really wanted to talk about because I did suffer a lot with morning sickness with both my pregnancies, more so with my first than I am with this second pregnancy. It is something I feel a lot of people struggle with, but also that a lot of people are quick to disregard as something that everyone goes through and suck it up and that kind of thing. When really if it's something that you're experiencing, you know that it can be quite debilitating and really hard to deal with at times. I also want to say before I get started that I'm obviously not a doctor, so none of this should be taken as, professional medical advice. These are just some things that I did to try and help get through my morning sickness and that I've heard has helped other people with their morning sickness. To give you a bit of background, with my first pregnancy with my daughter, I first started to feel nausea around the 5.5 week mark, so it was really early on in the pregnancy. I'd only just found out that I was pregnant at 4 weeks when I missed my period, and for that first week that I knew that I was pregnant, I just felt tired, and then by the end of the week I started to feel nausea and I was throwing up by 5.5 weeks. And I continued to all the way up until my delivery date. So it wasn't a fun time. I was working full time at the time and I do work in an office environment. So I wasn't having to run around like crazy. It wasn't a terribly active and physical job. I even found it draining just to be, sitting at my desk and working on the computer and acting like I was okay when I spoke to clients and customers. A lot of the time, especially in the first 14 to 15 weeks, 16 weeks probably actually. The first 16 weeks were the hardest for me. I spent a lot of time either calling in sick or laying down in the staff room out the back on the floor, obviously vomiting in the bathroom. I went home for lunch a few times and just couldn't go back to work. It was just completely debilitating. I couldn't do anything. When I was at home, I was in bed. I wasn't going out. I couldn't eat, or everything I ate would come back up again. The only time I didn't feel sick was when I was asleep, basically. So, it was a great time. After 16 weeks, it did get a little bit better. I was still vomiting the entire way through, but most of the time I could sort of get it over and done with in the morning, and then I would just feel the nausea throughout the day and not actually be physically ill. With this second pregnancy, it has been a little bit easier. The first trimester was really similar to the entire first pregnancy. The kids across the road are playing, so I don't know if you can hear it or not, but if you can hear screaming and laughing, then that's the kids across the road, and they are okay. They look like they're playing a game. So I don't know. I don't know if you can hear that, but if you can, sorry about that. Okay, so the second pregnancy has been a little bit easier. The worst of my sickness was in the first trimester and finished sort of around the 14-15 week mark. Although, that being said, I have still been ill every single day. It just happens in the morning once, and then I have my breakfast, and then I'm fine for the rest of the day. I was really nervous to get pregnant this second time, and not because of the sickness itself, and not because I was scared of being sick or scared of labour or anything like that. The main thing I was worried about is, with my first pregnancy, I was so out of it, I couldn't concentrate on anything. My entire life just became about me trying not to feel ill. That was all I could focus on, was how bad I felt. And once I had Taylor, obviously now I had a daughter to look after. If I was going to get pregnant again, I was worried that I was going to be feeling the same way, and I was terrified that if I was, I'd be missing out on her because I would be just as bad in bed, not being able to look after her. And I was really aware I didn't want to, I knew 9 months of my life was going to be, well, 9 months of her life rather, was going to be just me being sick all the time and not being able to do anything or play or be the mum that I wanted to be. So it was really hard for me to, I always wanted her to have a sibling. Like, it was never a case of, do I have a baby or not? I really wanted to, but I did struggle when the time came to try and conceive with the fact that maybe it would go as bad as last time and I would miss out on that part of her life. Thankfully, I've done okay. The first trimester was the worst, like I said, and then we've done okay from there on. There have been times when I've just had to have a nap, or I've just laid on the couch while she played, and I haven't been as active with her as I want to be. I haven't been able to do all the things with her I want to be, like going to the park and the zoo and just things that require a lot of energy. But her dad's awesome. He takes her to the park every single day. Both sets of grandparents will take her to things, and they've supported me with allowing me to rest and looking after her and sort of doing all the other things. She goes to a dance class once a week, and my mum especially has often come along, so that, you know, even though I can't always participate, she can still do it, and mum will still, you know, be there with her, and I can watch as well. That being said, it hasn't been as bad as I thought. So although I think like there was reason for me to feel that way, it turned out to be okay in the end, so it was fine. So now I'm going to get on with the things that helped me throughout my pregnancies. Like I said, the first time was really bad, nothing was going to help it. There's no cure for morning sickness, but these are a few little things. The thing I liked about these was that because I wasn't keeping anything down, I was obviously getting dehydrated, and these did just help a little bit more to keep me hydrated throughout the pregnancy. And then the second pregnancy I used more powerade than hydrolytes, which I bought it in this form, which is just powerade powder. I don't know if there's any option here actually. Basically the same thing, it's just a powder, rather than buying a bottle of Powerade or Gatorade every single day and, you know, multiple every single day. This is just a little scoop into your glass of water. Same thing, it hydrates you, and it tastes okay. I liked the lime one. Apparently a lemon flavour helps with nausea. I never tried I don't know if there is a lemon Powerade, but I used the lime one, which I think is similar to lemon, and that tended to be, although I don't like lime, the flavour of lime, it did tend to help the best, because it was, for me, it was the least sweet drink that they have, and I'm not really a huge sweet kind of person. Along with the Gatorade and hydrolytes, I did enjoy using Barocca for the same reason as the Powerade and hydrolytes, because they would hydrate you. There are vitamins in them that apparently are meant to help with your energy levels and things. And I would just sip those exactly the same way as I would with the Powerade, Gatorade, or hydrolyte. The next thing I only tried these in my second pregnancy. I doubt they would have helped at all with my first, because it was so bad. And I only used these for the first few weeks before the nausea got too bad and they just weren't working anymore. It's the C-bands, which these are usually used for seasickness, hence the name C-bands. And they're an acupressure. They're an acupressure thing. I have heard other people say, people that don't have like super bad morning sickness, that they've helped a huge amount, and they've basically warded off any vomiting, so they may work for you. But on the other hand, if you have got quite bad morning sickness, they may not. But they were a bit helpful. I did find them helpful in my second pregnancy. So this is what they look like. They're just two little grey bands, and they've got a little, a little nodule on the inside, and that point presses into an acupressure point on your wrist. So you put them on, sort of, it's about there. So the little nodule is pointing into your wrist and creates pressure, obviously, and it's meant to help alleviate nausea. Like I said, it's usually used in seasickness, but I did find that these helped for the first few weeks. When I was pregnant, I would wear them constantly. Then if I did feel a particularly bad wave of nausea coming, I would just press the little white knob into my skin. The thing I found helped the most with my first pregnancy, although not the entire way through, it stopped working after a few weeks, but during that really bad point in the first trimester I was using this, crystallized ginger, which you can buy at the supermarket. I hate ginger. I just can't stand it. I think it's disgusting. Once someone sort of pointed out to maybe give it a go, I thought, okay, I'll have one. If it's disgusting, then I will stop. But basically, I would not just eat the whole, because they come in sort of little pieces, little bite-sized pieces. I would just nibble on the piece. I wouldn't just chuck the whole thing in my mouth, because that would have not gone well. But yeah, nibbling on the crystallized ginger really, really did help. I found as soon as I put it in my mouth, I would feel fine. For a little while, but that worked for a few weeks, and then it sort of stopped working. Our body obviously must have gotten used to it and stopped responding to it, but it did really work. Like I say, more so for my first pregnancy. The second pregnancy, I did try it, but it didn't seem to do the same, give me the same relief as it had done in the first pregnancy. But that one's a really good one. Hopefully that does help a lot of people, because it's easy to get to and works for me. A couple of things that didn't really work for me but have worked for other people. Peppermint flavoured chewing gum rather, or just peppermint lollies. People have said that really helps. Apparently even the smell of peppermint can help soothes some people's nausea, and fruit tingles, which I think people sort of, the way I was talking about ice blocks earlier, people eat fruit tingles, which I don't know if you have them everywhere in the world, but they're little lollies that kind of fizz. They're little fruit flavoured lollies that fizz on your tongue when you eat them. And like I said, I think people said that they were a bit like the ice blocks, like they would just sort of keep it at bay for a little while if they needed to like drive somewhere or something like that. For my second pregnancy, I was able to hold off the actual throwing up until I was about 7 or 8 weeks pregnant with dry crackers. In the morning when I wake up is the worst. As soon as I sort of sit up out of bed, I'm ready to go straight to the bathroom and throw up. But with the first few weeks, I managed to leave some crackers by my bed at night, wake up in the morning before I even sat up, I would just nibble on some cracker, and that kind of would help me get through the actual standing up process and walking to the kitchen and getting breakfast without throwing up. So that worked for, like I say, a few weeks, and then I was at a point where nothing would help. So they did work for a little while, and I hear that they do work really well for most women suffering with morning sickness. Another thing that I didn't actually do myself, but I've heard great things about from other people, if you're suffering from really bad morning sickness and you find it is hindering your life and your ability to live your life, your doctor can prescribe you some medication to alleviate your nausea. I didn't do it personally, and I was never offered it in my first pregnancy. I think if I had been offered it in my first pregnancy, I probably would have gone ahead and done it. But with my first pregnancy, none of the doctors or midwives or nurses that I spoke to really seemed to take me seriously when I talked about my nausea, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a second. But with this second pregnancy, I went to my very first appointment with the doctor. Or my second appointment with the doctor. So not the appointment where they were confirming that I was pregnant, but the one after that. The doctor asked me if I was suffering from morning sickness. I said yes. But that it wasn't too bad, and she said straight away, if you need help to get through this pregnancy, we can offer you some medication. She said there's oral, they can give you injections, and I'm not sure what else, but that was the first thing she said to me, which I know some people that will be a path they choose not to take, and I completely understand that. I would be hesitant myself, but to be honest, just to be offered that kind of help, really, it made me quite emotional. One of my main struggles with morning sickness, particularly in the first pregnancy, was feeling really alone. A lot of the people that I knew that had been pregnant before, like my work colleagues, and I've only had a couple of friends that have had babies, but most of them hadn't really suffered with any morning sickness besides the sort of mild, usual early first trimester. They'd had complications elsewhere, but they had fairly breezy pregnancies when it came to nausea and morning sickness. So although they were really sympathetic and everything, and they did support me, it was really hard for them to fully understand what I was going through. My mum really suffered from morning sickness when she was pregnant with both me and my sister, probably much more so than I did. So she was really the only person that I felt really understood what I was going through in my real life. The first time I went to the doctor and she asked me how I was feeling, I said I was, feeling very nauseous and throwing up and not able to keep any food down and all that kind of thing, that I was not able to work efficiently, anything like that. Her response was to say, if you're worried about your baby not getting enough nutrients, just remember there are people in Africa that are starving and manage to have healthy babies all the time, which is true. But to be honest, at that point, I wasn't particularly worried about the baby not getting enough nutrients. I was worried about, me emotionally not being able to get through the entire pregnancy. The first midwife appointment I went to, I mentioned that I was sick, and she just sort of said, try ginger, try lemonade, you'll get through it, it's fine. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned a couple more times to different midwives and different nurses, but no one cared. Well, not that they didn't care, but they didn't take the time to understand how hard it was. I remember in one instance in particular, laying in bed, crying, like bawling because I felt so unwell, that I was, and quite early in the pregnancy, and thinking, I've got to go through 9 more months of this. Like, how am I gonna survive? Basically, it was horrible. I remember laying there thinking, oh my god, I hope this is twins so I can have my 2 babies and never have to go through this ever again. You know, like it was really, I felt like no one cared, no one was going through the same things I was, and I found that really hard at times. Something that helped me with that, aside from my mum, because she was awesome, something that really helped me with that was going online onto baby forums or pregnancy forums, and just sort of reading through the comments, you know, other women on there sort of talking about their morning sickness and how they dealt with it, or them even asking how other people dealt with it, and getting the responses from everybody else. That really helped because it made you realise that you weren't the only one that was suffering through this, that it would eventually come to an end, you know, that it was going to be okay, you would survive through your morning sickness. And you know that in the back of your head, but just to hear it from other people really does help ease your mind. I remember my mum always would say to me, Taryn, as soon as you were born, my sickness just went straight away, it was gone. And I sort of was like, I don't really understand. I remember getting to a point sort of about 8 months pregnant when I was still throwing up, and I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm not actually sick, and my brain's tricked me into thinking that I have to be sick, and it's not going to end when I give birth. And you know, I've developed some kind of disorder, but literally, as soon as Taylor was born, any sickness that I had, it was gone. It just went away. Like there wasn't even a smidge of remaining morning sickness, like of feeling the nausea or feeling sick. It was gone the second she was out. So what I'm trying to say is that as bad as you feel now, it will pass, even if it lasts the entire way through your pregnancy, which is horrible, and I hope that doesn't happen for you. Even if it does, as soon as your baby's out, it's gonna be forgotten. It's gonna be gone. It's not something you're gonna have to live with for the rest of your life. So that's everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope someone out there found this helpful. Like I said, I'm not a medical professional, so please check with your doctor if you are suffering badly from morning sickness. Hopefully they will be more sympathetic than my first doctor was, and they'll be able to help you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.